The cold came down like a fist that night. It wasn't the kind of winter cold that nipped at your fingers or stung your cheeks. This was deeper, heavier. The kind that pressed through your coat and settled into your bones. The kind that made even the streetlights seem dimmer, their glow swallowed by the falling snow and the wind that scraped across the empty street. The man pulled his collar tighter as he walked, head down, boots crunching through the fresh powder. He was tired. Long shift, long week. All he wanted was the warmth of home, maybe some coffee, maybe silence. Then he saw it, a small shape beneath the street lamp, dark against the white, motionless. He stopped. At first he thought it was trash, a discarded jacket, maybe a bag someone had dropped. But something about the way it sat there, curled in on itself, made him pause, made him look closer. He took a few steps forward, snow swirling around his legs, and crouched down beside it. A kitten. That's what his mind told him at first. Had to be, too small to be anything else. But then his eyes adjusted, and the details came into focus. The tufted ears, sharper than any house cat's. The faint spots along the legs. The broad paws, too big for the body. The short, stubbed tail. This wasn't a kitten. His breath caught. A bobcat. A baby bobcat. Out here, alone, in this cold. He didn't think, didn't stop to wonder why or how or what he was supposed to do. He just moved, peeled off his coat, wrapped the tiny body inside, and pressed it against his chest. It was cold, too cold, the kind of cold that meant time was running out. He stood, turned, and started running through the snow, his arms locked around the bundle, his own body already beginning to shiver. The wind clawed at him, the whole way home. Inside, the warmth hit him like a wall. He kicked the door shut behind him, moved straight to the kitchen, and laid the bobcat on the counter as gently as he could. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, just lay there, limp, its tiny chest, barely rising. He worked fast. Heating pad from the closet, towels from the dryer. He wrapped the bobcat carefully, layer by layer, creating a cocoon of warmth. Then he sat beside it, hands hovering, unsure, helpless. He'd done this once before, years ago, with a bird that had hit the window. That bird had died in his hands. He didn't want that again. Come on, he whispered. Come on, little one. Minutes passed, then more. He kept adjusting the towels, checking the temperature, watching for any sign of life beyond that faint, fragile breathing. The bobcat's fur was still damp from the snow. Its paws were like ice. He rubbed them gently between his palms, trying to coax warmth back into them. Just tonight, he told himself. Just get through tonight. Then I'll call someone. A rescue center. They'll know what to do. But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he believed it. He stayed there for hours. Midnight came and went. The house was silent, except for the hum of the heater and the occasional creak of the floorboards. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, he watched the bobcat's chest rise and fall, willing it to keep going. And then, movement. Not from the bobcat, from the hallway. Milo appeared at the edge of the kitchen, low to the ground, ears forward. The man looked up, suddenly aware he'd forgotten all about his cat. Milo was 5 years old, grey and white, with green eyes that missed nothing. He was cautious by nature, skittish around strangers, the kind of cat who hid when company came over. But now, Milo wasn't hiding. He was staring. The man tensed. Milo, no, stay back. Milo didn't listen. He padded forward slowly, each step deliberate, his gaze locked on the bundle of towels. The man's hand moved instinctively to block him, but Milo slipped past, nose twitching, whiskers trembling as he sniffed the air. The bobcat stirred, just barely. A faint twitch of the ear. Milo stopped, stared, then with a calmness that made no sense, he stepped closer. The man held his breath. Milo leaned in, sniffed the bobcat's head, its ears, its tiny paws, and then, slowly, impossibly, he began to groom it. Long, careful strokes of his tongue across the bobcat's frozen ears. No hesitation, no fear. The man sat frozen, hands still in midair, mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Milo continued grooming. The bobcat's breathing deepened, Its body relaxed, just slightly, into the warmth. The man lowered his hand, watched, waited, and for the first time that night, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this little wild thing would make it through. Morning came quiet and pale. The man woke on the couch, stiff-necked and cold, the heating pad still humming from the kitchen. For a moment, he'd forgotten. Then it all came back. The snow, the street lamp, the impossible smallness of what he'd found. He sat up fast, heart already racing. The kitchen was still. The towels were right where he'd left them. But now, curled tightly around the Bobcat, was Milo. His grey body wrapped protectively over the smaller one, his chin resting gently on the Bobcat's head, both of them breathing, both of them alive. The man exhaled, slow, steady. The Bobcat's eyes were still closed, but its paws were moving now, tiny twitches, like it was dreaming, stretching, trying to wake up. Milo lifted his head, blinked at the man, then went back to grooming the Bobcat's ears. "You're not supposed to do that," the man whispered, but his voice carried no weight. He didn't mean it, not really. The days that followed felt like living inside something fragile and strange. The Bobcat grew stronger, slowly at first. It learned to lift its head, to lick water from a shallow dish, to chew on bits of soft food the man offered. And through it all, Milo never left its side. He brought toys, old crinkled balls, feathers on strings, and dropped them near the Bobcat's bed. When the Bobcat cried, soft and confused, Milo answered with loud, insistent meows, until the man came running. At night, Milo curled around the Bobcat like a living blanket, purring steadily, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. The man tried separating them once, for safety, for logic. He closed Milo in the bedroom, and left the Bobcat in the kitchen. Within minutes, Milo was howling at the door, claws scraping wood. The Bobcat was crying, high-pitched and desperate. The man gave in, opened the door, watched Milo sprint straight back to the Bobcat and press his forehead against its tiny face. After that, he stopped trying. By the second week, the Bobcat was walking, wobbling at first, legs too long for its body, but determined. It chewed on furniture legs, pounced on shadows, climbed halfway up the curtains before tumbling back down into Milo's patient, waiting pause. Milo taught it things: how to head bump for affection, how to slow blinking greeting, how to play without claws fully out. But the Bobcat also showed something else, something wild. The way it moved, low, silent, precise. The way its eyes tracked movement with an intensity Milo never had. The way it tested the air, nose lifting, instincts stirring. The man watched it all, and slowly, quietly, the truth settled over him, like the snow had that first night. This wasn't temporary anymore. This was something else, something he hadn't planned for, something beautiful and impossible and entirely out of his control. He didn't know what to do with that, but Milo seemed to know exactly what he was doing. Spring came early that year, and with it, the Bobcat changed. His legs lengthened, his paws thickened. The soft kitten fur gave way to something sleeker, denser, built for survival. When he moved now, it wasn't with Milo's gentle padding. It was soundless, predatory. His play fighting grew rougher, faster, instincts sharpening with each passing day. But Milo never flinched, never backed away. He met every pounce with patience, every wrestle with calm. As if he understood something the man was only beginning to see. The Bobcat was growing up, and growing wild. The man made the call on a Tuesday morning. The Wildlife Rehab Center answered on the second ring. He explained everything: the rescue, the recovery, the bond with Milo. The woman on the other end listened carefully, then said what he already knew she would say. "He's healthy, strong. That's good. That means he's ready. Ready to go back. Ready to be wild again." The man thanked her, hung up, stood in the kitchen staring at nothing. Milo was curled on the couch with the Bobcat, grooming his face. The Bobcat's eyes were half closed, purring, a sound rougher than Milo's, deeper but
How do you explain to a cat that the brother he chose is leaving? The enclosure went up in the backyard over the next week. Tall fencing, climbing platforms, space to run, space to remember what wild felt like. The bobcat explored it fearlessly. He stalked insects through the grass, climbed to the highest perch, and scanned the tree line with eyes that saw more than the man ever could. He tested every corner, every shadow, nose lifted to the wind. But every evening, without fail, he pressed himself against the glass door that led back inside, staring, waiting, looking for Milo. The man sat on the porch one night, watching the bobcat pace the enclosure. Milo sat beside him, tail flicking slowly, eyes locked on the same thing. "I don't know if I'm doing the right thing," the man said quietly. Milo didn't answer, just kept watching. The bobcat stopped pacing, turned, met Milo's gaze through the glass, and the man realized something he hadn't let himself think before. The stronger the bobcat became, the more ready he was to leave, the harder it would be to let him go. Not just for Milo, for all of them. But wildness wasn't something you could keep. It was something you had to honor, even when it broke your heart. Especially then. Spring turned the forest green again. The day came quietly, no ceremony, no fanfare, just the man, Milo, and the bobcat standing at the edge of the enclosure, one last time. The wildlife staff waited at a respectful distance, giving them space for goodbye. The bobcat was powerful now, lean muscle beneath spotted fur, eyes sharp and clear, every inch of him built for survival. He nuzzled Milo first, long and slow, then pressed his broad head against the man's palm, purring that rough wild purr one final time. The man's throat tightened. "Go on," he whispered. The bobcat turned, paused at the open gate, looked back once, just once, then walked into the trees under the careful watch of the rehab team. And just like that, he was gone. The house felt wrong after that. Milo wandered the rooms crying softly, checking corners, searching. He sat by the glass door for hours, waiting. The man tried to comfort him, tried to distract him, but nothing worked. At night, Milo slept in the spot where the bobcat used to curl beside him. Alone now, small, the man wondered if he'd made a terrible mistake. Weeks passed. Then one morning, the man checked his trail camera, the one he'd mounted near the backyard tree line. More out of habit than hope, he scrolled through the footage. Deer, squirrels, a fox. Then he stopped. There, at the edge of the frame, standing in the early light, the bobcat, bigger now, healthier, stronger than ever, watching the house with those same familiar eyes. The man's heart kicked hard in his chest. He turned up the audio, and there it was, faint but unmistakable. Two soft meows, calling out, responding to Milo's cries from the porch. The man opened the door. Milo stepped out first, ears forward, body tense. He stopped at the edge of the porch. The bobcat didn't approach fully, didn't cross back into the world he'd left, but he stepped close, close enough. Milo moved forward slowly. They touched noses, held it for a long still moment. Then the bobcat turned and slipped back into the trees. Milo watched him go, didn't cry this time, just sat, calm, complete. The man knelt beside him, hand resting gently on Milo's back. "He's okay," he whispered, "and so are you." The bobcat never stayed, but he visited, on quiet mornings, under pale moons, always at the edge, always watching. A reminder that love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes it means knowing when to let go, and trusting that the bond you built